Hello and welcome back to That's English.
Hi there. Our first documentary is about change.
You'll hear people expressing life-changing moments. Some call them turning points and others talk about going off course.
One man says that the die was cast, which means a decision was made and there is no going back.
As you watch, try to answer this question. What is an epiphany moment? And what should we do if we have one?
Throughout our lives, we experience turning points. These are moments that change the direction we're currently heading. Some of these changes we control. Others just happen. But whether or not we ask for change, most of us need help finding the right direction. Terry Bodell is a psychologist who helps people navigate their way through life-changing moments.
People come to see me when a change has happened that has set them off course and distressed them in some way. Change can be very good. Change also can be a little difficult. I don't think things that change are either good nor bad. I think it's the way we react to them and our view of them.
Wyn Sherin is one man who changed the course of his life at the age of 50, when a family holiday inspired him to change career.
I taught for several years in various schools in London and the home counties, and then I sort of branched out with my sport when the world of leisure management began to open up in the late 60s and 70s. Furniture making or tools and wood have always been part of my life because my father was into that kind of thing and we had a workshop. My wife and I decided to go to America for a holiday and we went to New England.
When Wyn was in New England, he went to visit the Shaker community, a religious group famous for its handmade woodwork.
It was a major moment in my life. It was a revelation. Wonderful people, very simple life, and they were very much into handmade furniture. They had a big workshop, and I went into their workshop, and I think the expression is the die was cast. I just realised that this is where I needed to go, and that's where I went.
Wyn had what we know as an epiphany moment, a moment when thoughts and desires become very clear. But what should we do if we have an epiphany moment?
One of the things is seize it. Seize the moment immediately. Life is too short. Think about what you're going to have on your tombstone or your gravestone when you die. Do you want it to say, he worked hard at the office 12 hours a day, 7 days a week? Or do you want it to say, he laughed and spent time with his family? Which is going to be the one for you?
Mary Frank was able to change the direction of her life when she decided to set up a small business offering coffee from post-conflict zones.
My business is importing coffee and then selling it through a website and also directly to places like farm shops and delis. But it's not just any coffee from anywhere. The point about the coffee is that it comes from what is called post-conflict zones. That is an area where there has been a war or there has been violence of some sort where people have been affected. Before I set up the coffee business, I worked for the past 13 years in an inner city college of further education. I wanted to stop teaching and go out and do something for myself, because I'm able to do something that I think is actually making a difference to people's lives. I'm working indirectly with people who have suffered from conflict and are now having an opportunity to change their lives, and they are able to do that by growing coffee.
Thanks to Mary's turning point, there are now coffee bushes where there were once landmines. Mary and Wyn didn't set out to change their lives, but significant moments changed the way they saw themselves. Turning points happen throughout our lives, but the most powerful ones actually bring us closer to the person we want to be.
So, not only did Mary change her life, but she's also changing the lives of other people affected by war.
And Wynne feels very satisfied by his life change. Did you answer the question? What is an epiphany moment, and what should we do if we have one?
Wynne had what we know as an epiphany moment, a moment when thoughts and desires become very clear. But what should we do if we have an epiphany moment?
One of the things is seize it. Seize the moment immediately. Life is too short.
It is when thoughts and desires become very clear.
And we should seize the moment, which means we should take it and act on it.
We asked our international friends, what have been the most decisive moments in your country's history?
Firstly, it would be the independence of America from Great Britain. Secondly, the abolition of slavery by Abraham Lincoln, the president. Thirdly, I think it would be the bombing of Pearl Harbor, which meant that America then entered into World War II. And most recently, September 11th, the fall of the Twin Towers.
Well, there's been a lot of key moments. I would say probably the most important chapter in our history was in 1916, Easter 1916. There was an uprising, sort of against British rule, and a group of rebels took over the Central Post Office. They proclaimed a sort of independent state. There was a sort of a peace agreement in 1998, I think, the Good Friday Peace Agreement, which seemed to give people a lot of hope that the sort of cycle of violence has been broken.
I think a decisive moment in Canadians' history was when they became an independent country.
A decisive moment in Australia would have to be when Captain James Cook discovered Australia on the 6th of May 1770.
Well, a decisive moment in England's history could be the Industrial Revolution, where we had obviously the massive change from all the farming and agricultural to having all these factories, much more work for many people. Of course, it came with its problems, but it was a massive turning point in England.
A lot of historical turning points are related to war, like the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the uprising in Ireland against British rule.
We're going to learn more about Irish history in our next video. That's Ireland.
Our presenter, Aidan, begins his tour of Ireland in Dublin.
As you watch, answer this question. What's the significance of Dublin Castle in Ireland's history?
Hello and welcome to That's Ireland. I'm Aidan and I'm going to be showing you around some of Ireland's towns, villages and natural beauty spots. We start our tour here in Dublin, Ireland's capital city. I'm on O'Connell Bridge and behind me is O'Connell Street, one of Europe's widest urban streets. Dublin is a city with a strong political history. I'm standing outside the General Post Office. This building is a symbol of Irish nationalism. It is here where the proclamation of the Republic declaring Ireland's independence from the United Kingdom was first read out on April 24th, 1916. We declare the right of the people of Ireland to the ownership of Ireland. This event signified the start of what is known as the Easter Rising, or Rebellion, a major turning point in Ireland's history. This is Dublin Castle, in the heart of historic Dublin. The castle was built to defend the city and to protect the king's treasure. I'm here with Joe Darcy, a Dublin tour guide. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Aidan.
Joe, tell us something about the history of the castle and the role it plays in Ireland's history.
The English, or the Anglo-Normans as they were at the time, in the late 12th century, they captured the town of Dublin. And in the early 13th century, they built a huge castle here. And this Dublin Castle became the centre of English or British rule over Ireland for the next 700 years. The medieval castle was burnt in a dreadful fire in 1684, so it was rebuilt towards the end of the 17th century and early 18th century, so the castle you see around you now dates from then. Yeah.
Thanks for talking to us, Joe. Let's go and see a bit more of Dublin City.
The capital has changed enormously in recent years, but the city still manages to combine the old with the new.
This is Trinity College, Ireland's oldest and most notable university. It was founded in 1592, and former students include writers such as Jonathan Swift and Oscar Wilde.
The old library houses a priceless manuscript known as the Book of Kells, an illustrated version of the New Testament created around 800 AD by Celtic monks.
Entrance to this building, the National Gallery, is free.
The collection has around 500 major works of art on display and a fine collection of works by Irish artists.
Phoenix Park is the largest urban enclosed park in Europe, and it's more than twice the size of New York Central Park. This is the Wellington Monument. It commemorates the victories of the first Duke of Wellington, who was born in Dublin.
It's a bit cold today, but on a nice day, this park is a real treat.
Now it's time to see what Dublin's nightlife has to offer. I've come here to Temple Bar, which is on the south bank of the River Liffey. This area has preserved its medieval street pattern and has lots of narrow cobbled streets. This is the cultural part of Dublin and has a really great nightlife, which is really popular with the tourists.
Some traditional Irish hotspots are the Temple Bar Pub, Oliver St. John Gogarty's, and the Owl Dubliner.
Well, I'm going to have a wander around and find somewhere to have a drink. We'll see you next time again here in Dublin, and we'll be visiting a very famous Dublin attraction. Bye for now.
Dublin seems to have everything: history, art, nightlife, and a huge park.
Did you answer the question? What's the significance of Dublin Castle in Ireland's history?
The English, or the Anglo-Normans as they were at the time, in the late 12th century, they captured the town of Dublin. And in the early 13th century, they built a huge castle here. And this Dublin castle became the centre of English or British rule over Ireland for the next 700 years.
It was built by the English and represents their rule over Ireland for 700 years. So, Samantha, what has been the biggest turning point in your life?
Oh, I think my life-changing moment is yet to come. Thanks for joining us. See you soon.
Bye for now.